Vietnam is um, really shaking things up on its energy front, shifting its focus toward big solar farms and cutting back on coal and natural
Hmm.
gas reliance with a new target of getting 16% of its energy from the sun, which is like more than 3 times what they aimed for before.
That's quite the leap, right? It almost sounds like they're betting big on solar while stepping away from the old fossil fuel dependencies.
Exactly. And they've even scrapped their offshore wind turbine plans in favor of more onshore wind capacity, rooftop solar, and
Yeah.
energy storage options because offshore wind and new gas projects have turned out too pricey and tricky.
So, let me get this straight. They're really leaning into what's cheaper and simpler to build, like large solar installations. And that's kind of the main thrust
Yeah,
of this new policy, right?
absolutely. With Vietnam forecasting a need for over 201 gigawatts by 2030, that's like 40% more than they previously estimated. This huge surge is pushing a major transformation in how they generate power.
Right? Wow. More than Germany's current capacity, isn't it? I mean, that's a bold, almost ambitious move.
It sure is. And Giles Cooper, an energy policy expert, even pointed out that LNG projects, which many had relied on to fill the gap, are not even on track to be completed by 2030, so they're pivoting because they really need a dependable and scalable solution.
But what about the other side of the coin? I mean, Vietnam is also ramping up coal use, right? Isn't that a bit contradictory to the push towards renewables?
Good point. They are indeed increasing coal consumption, partly to compensate for lost hydropower from drought and to meet the soaring demand as factories shift from China to Vietnam. It's like they're walking a tightrope
Yeah,
between economic growth and environmental responsibility.
that does seem a bit perplexing. So, while they're embracing solar, they're still locked into coal. In some ways, probably to ensure they don't run out of power when renewables can't cover it all, right?
Exactly, and it's a real balancing act. Vietnam is even expected to become um, one of the world's top 5 coal importers soon. It's not purely a renewable move, it's optimizing their overall energy mix to keep up with rapid economic growth.
I can see that. And I guess the grid's been an issue too, huh? I remember reading that solar expansion had to stall back in 2020 because the grid was overloaded.
Yes, that's right. Solar power really took off from 2018 to 2020 thanks to supportive policies. But then the grid, which wasn't really ready for that rapid change, got overloaded because electricity was only available when the sun was shining, and that halted some of the
Exactly.
momentum.
And now, with this new push, I guess they're also trying to upgrade that aging grid to better manage and distribute this clean power.
Precisely. There have been some improvements, like allowing power-hungry factories to buy directly from energy producers, which helps relieve the grid pressure slightly while still pushing for cleaner energy options.
Yep. So, if I understand correctly, the policy is basically a strategic pivot. Build more solar farms because they're cheaper and easier to construct, streamline wind and rooftop solar projects, and then still keep a role for coal for now because it fills the gaps.
That's it. It's like Vietnam is saying, we're going for renewables, but we can't ignore our current energy demands or the economic realities. It's a pragmatic, multi-pronged approach.
I get that. But doesn't it seem like a short-term compromise? I mean, investing in coal could still lock them into, old habits that are hard to break, especially considering the global push against fossil fuels.
You raise a valid point. There's definitely a tension here. On one hand, they want to boost clean energy, but on the other, they need to keep up with demand. And coal is still a reliable fallback for now. It's like using a crutch while you're building stronger muscles.
Right? That's a neat analogy. And over time, as the grid gets smarter and solar tech becomes even more efficient, maybe the coal reliance will fade away.
Hopefully, yes. The intention is clearly to reduce reliance on gas and coal, but for now, old infrastructure and sudden demand spikes mean they can't go all in on renewables immediately. They're,
Yeah,
bridging the gap.
it's interesting how even when you pledge to go green, there are all these technical and economic challenges that, in reality, force a mixed strategy.
Exactly. And this case really highlights the complexity of energy transitions. Vietnam's policy draft is setting a bold new target for solar, yet they're still maneuvering a complicated legacy system. The grid upgrades and innovative measures like direct energy purchases for factories are part of that solution too.
It sounds like a journey rather than an overnight switch. Kind of like transitioning from a flip phone to a smartphone. There's a lot that needs to buttress the change.
Precisely, it's a process. And while the new policy definitely pushes for more solar due to its cost effectiveness and faster build times, the reality on the ground demands that they still invest in traditional sources like coal, at least until infrastructure catches up.
Right? I love how this broader narrative shows that energy policy is rarely black and white. There are these shades of grey, especially when economic growth and technological limitations are factored in.
Absolutely, and it underscores the fact that energy transitions are messy but necessary. Vietnam's aggressive target of 16% solar and the strategic pivot away from offshore wind, given its high costs, really illustrate a policy recalibration in response to both market realities and environmental imperatives.
And it also reflects a broader global trend, right? Countries are starting to renegotiate their energy mixes as renewable tech gets cheaper and public pressure mounts for more sustainable practices.
Right, exactly. Vietnam's move is part of a global shift where renewable energy is gradually taking center stage, even if it's intermingled with fossil fuels for the time being. There's a learning curve, improvements to be made, and incremental steps.
So what's your take on the potential long-term impact? Do you see Vietnam becoming a solar powerhouse eventually?
I believe so. I mean, with the new targets and policy tweaks, plus the drive to upgrade their grid and incorporate more onshore wind and rooftop measures, Vietnam is positioning itself as a leader in the Southeast Asian renewable surge. It might take time, but the trajectory, like a steep climb, is definitely upward.
Yeah, it's a fascinating mix of ambition and pragmatism. And while the coal aspect might raise some eyebrows, it's clear that they're adjusting to multiple pressures at once: economic, environmental, and infrastructural.
Exactly. It's complex, and while some might critique the continued reliance on coal, understanding the whole picture shows that the shift is layered and realistically paced. Not every transition can be instantaneous, right?
Right? Definitely. It's a balancing act between immediate energy needs and long-term sustainability goals. And it ultimately reminds us that even the boldest green initiatives have to contend with the realities on the ground.
For sure. Vietnam's strategy is an evolving experiment in how a rapidly growing economy can harness renewable power while phasing out traditional, less sustainable sources, a process that many countries around the world will likely navigate in similar ways.